What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 5 of the Gridiron podcast. My name is Nick,
My name is Michael.
and today we are going to be recapping the craziness of week 2 and giving a preview of our thoughts going into week 3. So let's get started.
Yeah, where do we even start? I mean, this past weekend, the NFL was drunk. I mean, so many upsets happened that just weren't expected at all. I mean, I was at a loss because obviously for betting, just wasn't great. Um, Definitely lost a few bets this past weekend, but yeah, starting with game number 1 that I lost on was Thursday Night Football, Bills Dolphins, and obviously the notable thing here is Tua getting concussed again. He's not retiring though, so I guess that's a good thing. But like the severity of his concussion and obviously his past, how severe do you think this will be for the Dolphins, Nick?
I think it's extremely severe. Knowing the past of Tua's concussions, I believe I saw something where this is his 6th total concussion between college and now the NFL. Um, I think it's extremely damaging for the Dolphins because realistically now they had to go on a search for a new quarterback because they really didn't have a second string quarterback. Um,
Yeah,
and I know I told Mike this. I think it's kind of ironic that the hit came from Damar Hamlin. Obviously, we both know, and all you guys know what happened with Damar Hamlin last year with the cardiac arrest. But I felt like it was kind of ironic that the hit, it wasn't even a bad hit at all. I mean, he
yeah,
just hit weird. And
yeah.
I think you knew right away also that it was a concussion, just the way that Tua was kind of acting after the hit.
Yeah. Well, the Dolphins went out, as you said, they needed a quarterback now, and they signed Tyler Huntley off of the Ravens practice squad. He's a solid backup. I mean, he's been around for some time now. I mean, I think he's a good signing for the Dolphins in this situation. I guess Skylar Thompson, they just don't believe in him yet. But you know what? I want to turn it over and talk about the Bills for a second because at least for me going into this season, they were a team that I saw like having a downward trajectory just based off of losing Stephon Diggs, a couple of defensive players in the offseason. But this team and Josh Allen is still kind of managing to find ways to win and also look dominant too. I mean, they are still contenders in the AFC East.
Yeah. And I mean, just looking at the stats here, Josh Allen was 13 for 19 with 139 yards and 1 touchdown. I think it just comes down to everyone just playing as a unit because obviously you mentioned the loss of Stephon Diggs. He was a big part of the Bills offense last year and the past couple of years that he's been with Buffalo. I think it's just this team plays well as a unit. I feel like they know what's at stake with obviously the AFC East and looking at what team can beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. And I feel like Buffalo believes that it's them. They just have been playing really good as a unit. The stats receiving wise were very spread out. And you have uh, Shakir with 5 catches, 54 yards. Kincaid, 4 catches for 33 yards. Ty Johnson, 1 catch for 33 yards. James Cook had 1 catch with 17 yards. Curtis Samuel had 1 catch for 3 yards. So it's very spread out. And then obviously you have the run game, James Cook with 11 rushes with 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it's
Yeah.
a very spread out offense. And I like what the Bills are doing this year with obviously the loss of Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just, when I add on to your point before we move on to the next game, but, as you said, it's kind of like the Packers situation, not to bring it to my own team, but you don't have you don't know who's going to be that guy for that week. You don't know who's going to get the most receptions, who's going to get the most targets. You just don't know. And I guess that could be a beneficial thing, but speaking of the Green Bay Packers, let's go ahead and talk about them. They played the Indianapolis Colts, and obviously Jordan Love with his injury week 1, he's out for this game. So the Packers went ahead and traded for Malik Willis, who I originally thought like, okay, he's a backup. What can he really do for this team? I thought honestly, as a Packers fan, I really thought the Colts were going to come out and win this game, especially with how tough they played week 1. But Anthony Richardson just couldn't get anything going, and that was surprising to watch as a Packers fan. Like, this defense put on a clinic.
Yeah.
Xavier McKinney with a nice pick. Packers creating turnovers, which is something they didn't do last year. And as I said again, Anthony Richardson just couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of touched on you never know who's going to have the most receptions for the Packers. I mean, just looking at the stats, it was 3-3-2-2-1-1 in terms of receiving. Romeo Dobbs, 3 catches for 62 yards. Datavion Wicks, 3 catches, 26 yards. Tucker Kraft, 2 catches, 16 yards. Jaden Reed, 2 catches, 9 yards. Luke Musgrave, 1 catch, 6 yards. Marshawn Lloyd, 1 catch, 3 yards. But I think that game honestly comes down to how Anthony Richardson played. He didn't really look good. I think that's a testament to how, I guess, difficult defenses can be. And I'm not saying by any means that the Packers is a good defense. I'm a Lions fan. I never want to be seen being said that. But I mean, Josh Jacobs pretty much carried the team on his back with 32 rushes for 151 yards. I think this game, it was going to come down to who made that next stop, because obviously with Jordan Love going down with the injury, we didn't know what kind of Anthony Richardson we were going to see. I was expecting, like Mike, the Colts to come out and win this game due to Jordan Love's injury. But I think it just comes down to that next man up mentality that a lot of these teams have. I think one team that, not to toot my team's own horn, but the Lions, they've been kind of the next man up type mentality. And we'll get into them kind of later in the episode. But I think with the Packers, this is a good sign that now you have Willis that can make those plays as a backup with Jordan Love being out. Obviously, 12 for 14, 122 yards with 1 touchdown. So, I mean, it's a good sign.
Yeah, no, last thing, touch on Willis. Even though he didn't throw the ball that much or have that many yards, he did what he needed to do as a backup, and the Colts had no answers for the run game. So, I mean, if you don't have to throw it, run it down their throat, which is exactly what the Packers did. They tried to do it week 1, and their run game was struggling. So it's good to see from the Packers that their run game was there, and maybe it's a threat going forward. But, going forward, next game we have here is the Steelers and Broncos. What a snooze fest of a game. I mean, a couple things I got to take away is has Justin Fields officially declared his spot as QB1 now that the Steelers are 2-0? I mean, it wasn't a pretty win both times, but is he doing enough to maybe keep this job?
I think so. Obviously, knowing the Steelers, they might say, okay, next week we'll have Russell Wilson start.
Yeah.
We don't know what is going on inside of the coach's mind in terms of the Steelers. This was just, I like to say, 2 poverty franchises at this point. It just was a very boring game. I think I fell asleep by halftime. So,
I mean, for the Denver Broncos, you're looking at Bo Nix, and this is obviously he's a rookie. He's going to struggle. He's not going to be like, Caleb Williams or any other rookie that's in the league right now, just going to light it up immediately.
Is Caleb Williams lighting it up though?
I know we'll get to him later, but I mean, he was projected to be a higher, QB, obviously taking number 1, but I'm just saying Bo Nix is struggling, so that's something I guess the Broncos are gonna have to deal with. He just doesn't look great, so I guess that's just something I live and die with. If you're a Broncos fan. So, but going on to the next, I mean, the first game for me that I saw that was crazy was the Raiders and Ravens. Uh, I mean, I don't even know what to say. If you're a Ravens fan, you're 0-2 right now, and it's not looking good.
Yeah, and especially to lose to a team like the Raiders. I mean, they're kind of bottom of the pack in terms of the AFC. I know I'm going to be
Yeah,
dogging on a lot of these teams. You guys are going to get to know my opinion on a lot of these teams going forward. But I mean, just looking at what the Ravens need to change, I think it comes down to they need to use Derrick Henry more, in my opinion, because he just really wasn't used that much. I mean, yeah, he had 18 rushes for 84 yards, but I expect more out of that duo of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And I just haven't seen it yet this year in terms of making defenses really think about what you're going to do, play in and play out. But looking at the Raiders side, I mean, Gardner Minshew, that's a name that I never expected to be kind of gassing, I guess, in a way. I mean, but he went 30 for 38 with 276 yards, one touchdown, and obviously had that one interception. But I mean, I didn't expect the Raiders obviously drafting another tight end going into this year in Brock Bowers after just
he's been a
drafting Michael
beast.
Myers. Uh, I mean, he went 9 catches for 98 yards against the Ravens. And the Ravens,
Yeah,
their defense has been struggling, which
yeah,
I never expected to say that because obviously the Ravens have been kind of like a top defense over the past couple of years, but they've been struggling to
yeah,
say the least.
yeah. And as you said, to Gardner Minshew, I mean, you gotta give him credit for having that last game-winning drive pretty much with 30 seconds left in the fourth to kick the field goal. They did enough to win, and that's what matters at the end of the week. I mean, I don't know where you go if you're a Ravens fan. Like, what do you see with Lamar Jackson now? Like, is he that guy? Because personally, for me now, after this, I don't see the Ravens as a team that can go toe to toe with the Chiefs. Obviously, week one, they lost already to the Chiefs, but even going back into the playoffs, I don't see them going toe to toe again.
I mean, to be fair, I don't see them going toe to toe with the Bills either because the Bills have
Yeah,
proven to me that, I mean, we both had them ranked pretty low going into this year, obviously,
yeah,
with the losses that they had in free agency. It wasn't just Stephon Diggs. I mean, I think both of us have said this multiple times. One man does not change a team.
absolutely.
So I think going forward with the Ravens, I think they have to rethink a lot of their concepts going into games, kind of like revamp the game plan going in because something's not working. I mean, you're
Yeah,
0-2. You're coming off of Lamar Jackson having an MVP season last year. He's not looking like an MVP type caliber player this year. And
right.
something just needs to change in terms of the Ravens as a whole, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, one man won't change the team. Going into this game, we got the Chargers and Panthers. I mean, I feel bad for Panthers fans out there. You have to watch Bryce Young, but not anymore. You got Andy Dalton coming in as Bryce Young was announced to be benched. Um, I mean, I think all for the right reasons. I think this experiment is over. I mean, maybe you'll see him later in the weeks, but yeah, I mean, it's just brutal to watch him. I mean, it really is. I don't know if it's really just that situation in Carolina or if it really is Bryce Young. I think it's a mixture of both because I think even if you
Definitely.
are in a bad situation, I think if you are a superstar, you should be able to stand out. And Bryce Young has been awful. I mean, awful. missing, uh, receivers, throwing into double coverage. It's just he doesn't have the vision of the field, I don't think. But on the flip side, we got the Chargers who just have the Harbaugh effect. I mean, J.K. Dobbins looks great as a running back right now. Quince Quinston Johnson had a couple touchdowns, had a good game finally. Can he continue this? Hopefully, because that's who their wide receiver one is now. But yeah, this game just expected another snoozer to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking on like Bryce Young, I mean, do you remember back when he was drafted, his height was kind of in question? I think he's
Oh
like
yeah.
5'10", maybe.
Yeah, he's
Um,
5'10".
do we think he can't see over the offensive line? Do we think that's the issue?
No, I really don't think that's the issue.
I,
I
I'm just, I'm just, I'm just
just throwing it
playing.
out
I
there.
obviously I
Yeah.
know that's not the issue. I think with the Panthers, I think it's just a scheme issue when it comes down with Bryce Young. I think he doesn't fit their scheme well. Like I feel
I mean,
like
he's not even making the throws. I'm watching some of his highlights and going, "Why are you throwing there? Where
right.
are you throwing to?" I don't know if it's a scheme issue, and plus, to be honest, second week into the NFL season, your your head coach is getting involved already by benching you. It's not a good look. It's not.
I think it also with him being benched, I think he played so poorly last year in his rookie season. So I
Yeah,
think it's just a carryover into this year. I think both Panthers fans are upset with his play because, to be fair, they have not won a game in 2 seasons. I don't think they won a game last year.
they won 2. They're 2 and
Sure didn't feel like
17
it.
going into this year. Yeah, I know. It was yeah. It's been
Like,
brutal. There's really nothing more to say about this Panthers team. It's just brutal.
and then I'll speak something on the Chargers, even though I hate, hate gassing up any team that has Jim Harbaugh as a Michigan State fan. Um, good luck with their national championship being taken away. Um, but I mean, Justin Herbert looked like he looked really good against a horrible defense. The Panthers are a horrible defense. I think Herbert playing good, it doesn't say much for me in terms of
Yeah,
like
I
what
agree.
Herbert can be. But I mean, you speak on like J.K. Dobbins, you speak on a bunch of these other players. I think this team as a unit is good. Now, can they compete in the AFC in terms of potentially making it to the playoffs? I think so. But can they make
Yeah,
it past those teams like the Bills, like the Ravens, like the Chiefs,
yeah,
um, like the Texans? That's up to question.
yeah.
So,
You know you know what is up to question, though, is the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I literally didn't watch this game. I watched a little bit of it because I saw Alvin Kamara on my screen every 3 seconds because 'cause they're giving highlights of the game, and this guy's
yeah,
scoring a touchdown. It was like I think it was like 28 at halftime the Saints had, but I don't know, I can't don't quote
they
me.
had
Um, I know it was like an absolute blowout though, and
35 at halftime.
yeah, I mean, Derek Carr to Rashid Shaheed, I mean, I didn't know I mean, I knew the Saints had Chris Olave, obviously. They lost Michael
Mhm.
Thomas. They got Rashid Shaheed. This guy's a deep threat. I mean, this guy's fast. He's good. Derek Carr looks great, by the way. Let's not mention that. But Alvin Kamara also looks great. We thought, I mean, at least me, I'm like waiting for the year that Alvin Kamara just falls off. But he's proven time and time again that he's still relevant and he's still a good running back.
Yeah, I'm going to quote my own tweet. Dak does not deserve his contract. He does not
I
deserve this
fully agree.
contract. He
Yeah.
was, I mean, yes, he had 293 passing yards, but he had those 2 interceptions, and those were bad interceptions. I mean, CD Lamb couldn't get going. Their run game couldn't get going. Their defense was getting eaten alive by the New Orleans Saints. And
Yeah.
Derek Carr, who is said to be one of the worst NFL quarterbacks going right now. Bryce Young is
Not
definitely
anymore.
worse than Derek Carr.
Oh,
But
easily.
the Dallas Cowboys just need to get something figured out. I think we're kind of talking about, okay, their contracts, maybe they might be a playoff team now. After this game, I'm saying they're right down to not making to the playoffs because this was just horrible. This was just a horrible
Yeah.
showing. They beat a beaten up Browns team who had, I mean, Myles Garrett had an injury going into the game. You had a bunch of other people. They beat Deshaun Watson. Okay, good job. But you can't beat Derek Carr. You guys are horrible.
Yeah. I mean, for the Saints, I will say this makes the NFC South. Sorry, I was about to say the East. NFC South very interesting because I never saw the Saints as a contender. I was looking at the Falcons and Bucks,
Yeah,
but
Sam.
now you have to say, hey, the Saints are in there. And they continue on this track. I mean, they scored 91 points in 2 games. That's really impressive. I mean, I know week 1 was against the Panthers, but week 2, they still managed to just fly by. And like I said, 35 points at halftime. They just made it look easy. So if they continue this, I mean, they might be a threat. So as for the Cowboys, though, I don't know what to say anymore. I mean, you got to be consistent. That's the huge thing is consistency. Now they're obviously dealing with some injuries, but yeah, I mean, if this is making the NFC South very interesting because I never saw the Saints as a contender.
Yeah, I think a good game to kind of piggyback that off of is the Rams versus the Cardinals. I think we can talk about that game a little bit. The Cardinals came out and won 41-10.
Yeah,
Now, no Puka Nakua. That's obvious, right? You come in having an injury to one of your star players, one of your key targets. But even then, like their run game, I mean, Blake Corum, 8 rushes for 28 yards. Kyron Williams, 12 rushes for 25 yards. That's 5.6 yards per carry between the two of them.
yeah. I mean, the Rams are just beating up. They got like 20 guys on the injury list. Now you can add Cooper Kupp with the high ankle sprain. It's not looking good. I mean, the Cardinals, I'm glad I took them this week in the freaking spread because this really helped me out. But yeah, I mean, Marvin Harrison and Kyler look deadly as a duo potentially. Harrison put up 2 touchdowns and had like 130 yards. Great game from him. Great game from Kyler Murray today. Cardinals just came out, took care of business, didn't allow themselves to throw the lead too. So, I mean, got the job done, which I expected with the beat up Rams team. I mean, nothing really more to talk about here. But Nick, I know we gotta talk about this game, man. Your Lions, the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
I'll let you
I,
start.
I I told Mike after the game, he's like, "What about them Lions?" or something like that. I was like, "I don't want to talk about it." But I mean, kind of going into it, obviously a playoff rematch. We've only seen team 3 other times where the team going in has versed their first 2 playoff opponents, like back to back. It's only happened 3 other times. All 3 of those times, teams made it to the Super Bowl. Am I saying the Lions are going to the Super Bowl? Is there a chance they make it to the Super Bowl? Yes. But is it going to happen because of this? Not because of that. But I mean, going into the game, you had a lot of mistakes in terms of the coaching. Dan Campbell said it himself that he lost this game. The players didn't. It was bad game play schemes, a lot of not being able to adjust on the fly. You had Jared Goff. He went 34 for 55 with 307 yards with 2 interceptions. And in terms of the Buccaneers, the Lions shut down the pass defense pretty good. besides for Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin at one point had every single receiving yard for the Buccaneers, and they had already targeted Mike Evans 6 times at that point with 0 receptions. So I think in this game alone, there were improvements by the Lions in terms of, I mean, you had Aiden Hutchinson with 4.5 sacks, 3 of them being in the first quarter alone. You had the run defense. They really stopped the run, besides for when Baker Mayfield kind of went outside of the pocket. I think this game came down to, I know I mentioned this to Mike, you had injuries to Penei Sewell and Kevin Zeitler going into this game. They were both marked as questionable up until like the final roster going into the game was set. You had another great game out of Jameson Williams with, let me get the stats real quick. He had 5 catches for 79 yards. You had a better game out of Amon-Ra St. Brown with 11 catches, 119 yards. Obviously, he went down twice with an injury. They do say that it is a soft tissue injury in his foot, so he should be good against Arizona coming up this week. But it was a lot of third down conversions. Obviously, they had the fake punt on their own 20 where Fox threw it to Sione Vaki for 22 yards on a 4th and 10, I believe, from their own 20-yard line. It was a lot of red zone conversions that really hindered the Lions. They were basically 0-6 from the red zone. A lot of times where they were just trying to force things on rushing plays, it would be like -4, -3. And I think that is a testament to the Tampa Bay defense. I mean, they had a couple of injuries, obviously Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, Antoine Winfield. All of those guys were out. They did not play.
Yeah.
But the way that Tampa Bay, they were showing like schemes that should be read, but unfortunately Ben Johnson was not able to read those. Do I think this kind of declines a lot of people's thoughts in the Lions? No. I think they're still a really good team. I think it's just a lot of those in-game scenarios, obviously red zone conversions that they need to get better on. And a lot of times it was just a lot of dumb decisions. I think Jared Goff, he did as much as he could. I feel like a couple times he should have went down for a sack. There was one time in particular where it was, I think, 3rd and 7 from the 15-yard line. If he got sacked, it would have been 4th and 10 from the 22, roughly, for like a 35-yard kick for Jake Bates. And Jake Bates can kick it from 70 yards. But instead, he threw it and got an interception. Obviously, going into halftime, they wanted to spike the ball. Dan Campbell knew that they wanted to spike the ball, but instead he sent out the field goal unit and they had 17 men on the field. And obviously that's a 10-second runoff, so that it went into halftime. So I think it's a lot of things that need to change. I think, yes, there was improvements from the Rams game a week ago. I think it's just another good playoff team that beat another good playoff team. I think it just comes down to that. I think it's a lot of tiny adjustments that need to happen for the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, with all that said, there's no way that anybody should think the Lions aren't going to be a good team. I think the Lions will be just fine. This was a tough matchup. Like I said, they'll be just fine. But
Yeah.
as you said, did someone make a mistake? Because the Niners dropping Sam Darnold going to Minnesota, and he showed up. I mean, he showed up. Sam Darnold might be like a Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith story. I mean, this is an opportunity for him to really show that he can still start in the NFL, not just be a backup. I mean, just like Baker, got a starting job, didn't do well. You were a backup, and now you have an opportunity. Well, this is Sam Darnold's opportunity. It's unfortunate with J.J. McCarthy, but this game was huge. I mean, this was the one game I was like locked. I was like, the Niners should win this. The Minnesota Vikings like defense, it's kind of scrappy. I know they got a good couple draft picks and one cornerback that I know is decent, but overall, it's a scrappy Minnesota team defensively. And after watching Justin Jefferson just absolutely cook the Niners secondary, I was like, okay, maybe it's not the Minnesota Vikings. It's the Niners who have problems on defense. I couldn't tell you exactly why this game went the way it did. I mean, the Niners scored 7 points at half, which is just like unheard of. And you know what's also very interesting too is ever since Ayuk signed that contract, his yards are just terribly down. I mean, I know they said week 1 that he will get less snaps, but he's not even getting targets really.
Yeah,
So,
he had four receptions for 43 yards, kind of piggybacking off of that. I know earlier in the episode we said one man does not change this team. So people are going to say, "Oh, Christian McCaffrey wasn't on the field." Okay, but you still
right.
have Brandon Ayuk, because you still have Debo Samuel. You still have your entire defense, and
Right.
none of them showed up.
Yeah.
I
It
think I think this is going to be a testament for the remaining games for the 49ers. I think
well, I was just going to quickly say, go ahead.
I think we're kind of on the same path. Um, the NFC West is pretty competitive this year. Um, do I think they win the NFC West? Yes, I think that's still kind of, because the Rams obviously having their injury issues, that's going to hinder them for a while. But then you have the 49ers. Yes, they don't have Christian McCaffrey, but I don't see them making a long playoff run. I don't see them making it back to the Super Bowl. I think going forward, I think the 49ers are a strange team, to say the least.
This year at least, yeah.
I think, and I've been saying this over and over again. Everyone's like, "Oh, what do you think of Brock Purdy?" Overrated. Overrated,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I mean, it's fair to say now. But, I was going to say earlier, now the Niners have to deal with no Debo Samuel. So, what is the identity of this team? Brock Purdy really has to throw to George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, a wide receiver 3. He's gonna have to really find a way to win these games. Obviously, they have the new running back now, Jason Morgan.
Jordan
Is it
Mason.
Jordan Mason? I mean, on the right track. Just got the letters wrong, the names wrong. Anyway, Jordan Mason, yeah, he's been looking pretty solid, so they do still have a running back. But yeah, I mean, it's just about finding the identity of this team. I knew going into the season they were gonna have slip ups like this, where you
Mhm.
kind of question them. I mean, as you said, the NFC West is, I think they'll still win it, and the Seahawks are there too. But it's just a matter of how strong are the 49ers, because they're not, in my opinion, the same team as last year by any means. So,
Right.
as you said, yeah, I mean, the Niners just about finding their identity. This game was really off for them, and next week, hopefully, they can pick it up. But, finding their identity, how about the Jacksonville Jaguars? I mean, they are truly a team that I look at and go, what is this team's identity?
Yeah.
Because it's so all over the place. I don't really know what to make of it. Doug Peterson has to be on the hot seat. I mean, they're 0-2 right now. The offense isn't going at all. This was a dud game, to be honest. The Browns, I mean, it was Browns defense carried this game, but yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you, Browns defense.
it isn't looking good for the Jaguars right now, as I thought going into this season with all the offseason moves they made, getting Armstead from the Niners, like this was going to be a team that is going to be competing, especially with the wide receiver core that they were adding, especially drafting Brian Thomas.
Yep.
Now it just looks so bad. I mean, it looks bad. Travis Etienne isn't getting going. It's just bad. Trevor Lawrence isn't looking good. I don't even know what to make of them right now.
Yeah, I think speaking on like a previous episode that we've had is the quarterback market. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys that is very highly paid. Uh, do we see in a couple of years when his contract is up, do we see him potentially not get re-signed? Because I mean, last year they were looking like they were going to be a playoff team, and then they fell off very
Yeah,
hard
right,
at the end of the
right.
season. And now they go into this season 0-2. I mean, Lawrence hasn't looked good, like you said. Their offense really hasn't looked good. ETN hasn't gotten going. Do we see? I know this is like a couple years in the future, but do we see him not get re-signed? I think yes.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. We'll see what happens with the head coach first. We'll see what happens there with Doug Peterson, but
He
yeah,
definitely is on the hot seat.
this mediocrity and inconsistency from the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, it's just not gonna win you anything. Therefore, I think it will be time to move on, but I guess we'll see how their season goes this year. But I really don't have hopes for this Jaguars team right now, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely the 0-2 start is not something I think either of us expected, especially like you said with the offseason moves that they made. But Doug Peterson, you're on the hot seat, buddy. But
Yeah,
I think a good game to kind of go into is a game that I think really kind of surprised me a little bit. Bengals and Chiefs.
yeah, absolutely.
Chiefs won by 1 point, 26-25. And I think going into this game, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe Burrow was 3-1 against Patrick Mahomes in his career.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I was gonna say that there's actually positives from both side here. Even
yeah,
though the Bengals lost, a great positive is you came out and you played. I mean, you played a tough game. Yes, you fell short at the end, but this is how you have to come out every single week. Not like last week where it was very sloppy. Question marks were in the air about what was going to happen with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, the run game, turnovers, everything. But this game really solidified for me that even though the Bengals are 0-2 here, it was a hard fought game. And on the flip side, if you're a Chiefs fan, this was good too because yes, you had to come back and win, but you struggled so hard on offense that you still managed to win. So, I mean, it was just a positive for both sides, to be honest, even though the Bengals did end up losing.
yeah. I mean, kind of going off of what you said, in terms of the question marks of Jamar Chase and everything like that, even this game, he didn't have that many stats. I mean, he had
Yeah.
4 catches for 35 yards. Do we see him kind of pick it up now that the contract is solidified and everything like that? Do we see him kind of diving into the role that we think he should be? Or do we see him kind of taking a back seat to have the more spread out offense?
No, I definitely see Jamar Chase picking it up, especially now that the Bengals offense got rolling this week, especially against a tough defense like the Chiefs. I definitely see Jamar Chase being Jamar Chase. I mean, there's just no backseat role this superstar, is going to take. So that's what I see. And I see Joe Burrow also, he stepped up, had a decent game. So that was good to see. I mean, I think this Bengals offense will get it going now that they did put up 25 points. And yeah, Jamar Chase he'll still be Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and kind of speaking on the Chiefs kind of blunders on offense a little bit. I don't think I've ever seen a stat line for Patrick Mahomes like this. I mean, 18 for 25 with 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. I don't think I've ever seen a stat line like that for him. Do we do we think it's kind of like a nod to the Bengals defense, or do we think that Patrick Mahomes just had an off game?
I mean, Patrick Mahomes will have a game like this or two every single year. I mean, it's happened numerous times. But in these tough games, he will have a couple interceptions or there will be a fumble. something like a turnover of that nature will happen. Um, with this offense, especially with no Marquise Brown, you have young receivers in Rashid Rice and Xavier Worthy. Now you have no Pacheco. You're gonna have to start maybe forcing things. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is gonna have to find a way to win, and
Mhm.
with the limited options that he has, there will be mistakes, and maybe teams are starting to figure out this Chiefs offense finally. But yeah, I mean, you will get these games out of Mahomes a couple times a year.
Yeah, and I think a couple games that we can kind of touch on, just briefly. Um, I think the Falcons Eagles game on yesterday. That was definitely a crazy one. I think there's not
Oh,
a too lot to talk about. I think it was just kind of iffy on both sides. Obviously, Falcons coming out and winning by one. Uh,
I
Kirk
mean,
Cousins looked pretty decent in that game, somewhat.
yeah. I mean, the only couple things I had to say is Saquon Barkley costed me points in my cover 5 league because of him dropping the ball, which would have been a first down, and the Eagles probably would have scored with a minute 30 left in the fourth quarter. He drops that ball. Now Jalen Hurts threw an interception after that, and Kirk Cousins did a great job driving down the field, getting a touchdown, and, yeah,
Kirk Cousins
solidifying the
wins
game.
in prime time, guys. He wins in prime time.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have to say is no AJ Brown for the Eagles. Is this a struggling Eagles offense, or what does this mean for the Eagles going forward? I mean, they only scored 21 points, which isn't enough, in my opinion, with this offense.
I don't think there it raises too much concern. I mean, obviously AJ Brown, big part of this offense. But I think it just comes down to I'm going to say this over and over again this season, guys. That next man up mentality. I think it just comes down to like the Devonta Smiths. I think it comes down to maybe Saquon coming into the passing game and not dropping balls when it could be a first down.
Yeah, I mean, Jahan Dotson, the guy that they traded for, is gonna have to be that guy next up, I guess. Um, but yeah, I mean, another quick game that I wanted to talk about really quick was the Seahawks and Patriots, only because for me, it's like the Seattle team should be better than what they're showing. And their defense has so much potential. Their offense has so much potential. It's just like they're winning these games by very skimpy wins. I mean, overtime with the Patriots. I will say, give credit to the Patriots that they aren't as bad as I thought they would be. I mean, they are fighting. They are making teams work for their wins. Credit to them and Mayo for coaching this team and making them the way they are right now because they don't look as bad. I mean, I don't feel comfortable taking some of these spreads against them now because you never know. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to how Mayo thinks. Obviously, he's a great football mind. Uh, I think it just comes down to the way he thinks. I think he just thinks differently than most coaches do. And obviously, one man does not change a team. Seahawks did not have Kenneth Walker in this game with
yeah,
that oblique injury. Uh, I think it needs to come down to the defense for the Seahawks. I think they were just so up and down in this game. It needs to be better if they want to have those bigger margins against teams, especially with the schedule that they have coming up. They do not have an easy
yeah,
schedule coming up. So
yeah.
I think it comes down to that defense needing to step up to have those bigger margins against teams and not having to go into overtime like they did this past week.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple more games in week 2 here. Just quickly touch on them because we did go overtime with talking about week 2 because we got week 3 to talk about too. We'll just give our quick picks there. But right now we got the Giants and Commanders, and let me tell you, I'm snoozing.
Yep.
Giants, they scored 3 touchdowns and they still couldn't win. The Commanders scored 0 touchdowns and they kicked all field goals and they won the game. I mean, if you're the Giants, man, it's sad out there. I mean, this game back and forth. I mean, it was boring in my opinion. I mean, Jaden Daniels did play well, but I mean, yeah, just it's terrible if the Giants can't find a way to win with the Commanders kicking field goals. But the last game of that week was the Bears and Texans, which I thought was gonna be a great game. It was a great game, but now there's, in my opinion, raising concerns for the Bears offensive line still because Caleb Williams was getting pressured like crazy. He was under attack.
Yeah, I think kind of touching base on that just a little bit. I think going into this season, I thought, okay, the Bears have a decent offensive line. Obviously, it's not to the standards of like the Eagles' offensive line or the Lions' offensive line, but I thought they kind of had like a little bit better than middle of the pack. They did not look good these past 2 weeks.
No.
Caleb Williams under duress multiple times. And I think that kind of boils down into their wide receiver core because they have a really good wide receiver room. It's just not showing because Caleb Williams is having to run out of the pocket basically right after the ball snapped. So,
Yeah.
do we see them get more into the run game with this offensive line going to the outside more? No, because I think there's just this offensive line. Caleb Williams needs to buy them a freaking team dinner, get those guys beefed up if he doesn't want to be under duress the entire game. And I think that kind of led into him throwing for 174 yards with those 2 interceptions. I think it just comes down to that. And then kind of going into another player that is kind of under duress is the Jets and Titans with Will Levis. Will Levis, he comes up with the most crazy ways to get turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's having to throw shovel passes, and then there's that funny picture of him going like this, and then he hurdles a guy and fumbles the ball while trying to
You
toss it
can't do
backward.
that. Yeah, you can't do that. You give the Jets a turnover and you win the game, or the Jets win the game rather. Yeah, just like Bryce Young, this may be a question in doubt. Is it time to bench Will Levis too? Because those guys are competing to be the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's not a joke. It's seriously pathetic and sad. It's just frustrating to watch those two teams.
I thought the competition for the worst quarterback was also going to have Derek Carr, but I think we're kind of past that point with
Oh
the
yeah,
season that he's having. But I think definitely the competition for the worst quarterback is between Will Levis and Bryce Young, who can come up with the
yeah.
most creative ways on how to lose a game.
Those guys are on a whole different scale, whole different tier of quarterbacks. But Nick, let's get into week 3. We're gonna go fly through these a little bit here and just give our picks, who we think will win the game pretty much. But starting off with Thursday Night Football, we got the Patriots and Jets, a conference or division game rather in New York. I got the Jets.
I got the Patriots.
Ooh, okay.
I think the
Give me your thoughts
Patriots
there.
have. I think the Patriots have shown more over these past 2 games than the Jets have realistically. I think it's going to come down to defense. I think with any of these conference games
Yeah,
that are going to be happening, you just know these teams so well. But I think with the Patriots themselves, I think they just have more determination on to prove the haters wrong compared to, I mean, the Jets. Aaron Rodgers has had a storied career over his decade of playing.
yeah,
I think just the Patriots have more determination, and I think this is one of the only games I'm going to have to disagree with you on. I think the
yeah.
Patriots win this.
That's not a bad take. We got the Chargers and Steelers. I got the Chargers personally. I just don't see the Steelers offense really scoring. I got more belief in Justin Herbert stepping up more than Justin Fields.
Yeah, I have the Chargers.
All right, Green Bay and Tennessee. Depending on if honestly, no, not even if depending on Jordan Love plays. I think Malik Willis against his former team, he'll do better than Will Levis, which will be insane to watch. I
I
mean,
think Will Levis does a behind the back pass to a D tackle.
Devon Kenny Clark up in the middle. Yeah, that would be so funny. Yeah, I mean, if Will Levis honestly finds a way to lose this game, I will laugh. So I mean, it'll be so funny.
He'll try
Um,
doing like between the legs, and Jair Alexander is just going to be standing right there, like, how did I get this?
yeah, it'll be right in his hands, gifted to him. But yeah, speaking of talented players, we got Daniel Jones on how to lose. Going up against the Cleveland Browns, I got the Browns here. I think the Browns defense will cause absolute havoc for Daniel Jones. Turnovers will be a problem.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. I don't think the Giants score a single point.
Oh my goodness, I get shut out.
I think it's going to
That's
be a
crazy.
shutout. And I'm not saying that because I have the Browns defense on my fantasy team. I think just the Giants offense is just so far gone at this point, and the Browns defense is to the point where they are. I don't see the Giants scoring a single point.
I mean, speaking of scoring a point, Bears and Colts, will Anthony Richardson and his offense be able to get going, or will the Bears defense be too much and the Bears offense finally get to start going here? I got the Bears, unfortunately, as a Packers fan. Got to say that. I don't know why Anthony Richardson's playing the way he is. I got to take the Bears in a very close win, like a very low scoring win, like a 17-13 kind of game.
I got the Colts 7-3.
7-3 is crazy, dude. That is crazy.
I
That is
think
like
I think
what?
these teams just offset each other so well. You have a Bears defense that is good, right? You have a Colts offense that's eh, and then you
Yeah,
have a Bears offense that eh,
still
with
figuring it
a
out.
Colts
Yeah.
defense that's pretty good,
Yeah.
better than
um,
eh.
yeah, Texans, Minnesota. This game, I got the Texans. Although I do think it'll be a lot closer than obviously what we've seen or what I thought about Minnesota. Got the Texans here. You agree with me there?
Yeah, I got Texans maybe 21-20. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I think it's going to come down to who can make that big stop on defense.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of defenses, Eagles, Saints. Will the Eagles defense be able to stop the Saints offense?
I think this one's tough because if you were to ask me before the season, I would 100% say Eagles. But the Saints have proven to be quite the Cinderella story, if I were to say.
Yeah.
I think with the loss of AJ Brown, I think I have to go Saints here. I think it's just
Yeah.
going to be a really close game still. I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a really good game.
Yeah.
But I have to go Saints.
Yeah. No, I agree with you as an upset here. I just was not impressed with the Eagles Monday night against the Falcons. Whereas the Saints offense is just rolling. I think it'll be a close game, maybe a 27-21 game again or 27-20, but I think the Saints offense just rolls, and whatever the Saints are doing, I mean, they're doing something right. So I think the momentum continues as they'll shock some people in this game, going 3-0. Um, Denver versus Tampa Bay. I mean, got the Bucks here.
I got the Bucks. Next.
Yeah, next. Oh, Carolina, Vegas. That game's got me
I
on the
I
edge of my
am
seat.
I am going to be
With
watching
Andy Dalton.
Twitter on that game. I'm going to be watching Twitter. I am going to be on
Yeah,
the edge of my seat,
yeah,
biting my nails the entire game.
yeah. No, heart pounding,
I
adrenaline's
have
going.
Raiders. I have Raiders.
Minshew versus Dalton. I want to say I got the Raiders too, just based off of their wide receiver core and their defense. Yeah, not really much to talk about. Miami versus Seattle with no Tua. They got Tyler
Yeah.
Huntley. Unfortunate. I got the Seattle Seahawks.
Ooh.
Be a close game, in my opinion. It can go either
It's
way.
definitely going to be a close game. I think the Dolphins still take it.
Interesting. I think it'll
I
come down
think
to like that one, like what team can get the ball in the end zone, like
yes.
that one last time.
I think
So
it definitely comes down to that. I think the Dolphins still have a really good run game. Obviously, we don't
oh
know
yeah,
the status of Kenneth Walker going into this game, uh, who is going to be a huge loss for the Seahawks. But I think the Dolphins still have a really good run game. Whether or not they decide to use that more often, now with Tua being out, but I think the Dolphins still take it. I think it's probably within a field goal.
yeah. This game will not be within a field goal. We got the Lions and Cardinals. I think this will be a good rebound game for the Lions to really come out and show dominance again. I think they win by a couple scores here, if not by 10. Yeah, I got the Lions.
I have them winning by 20.
Yeah,
I
can't
think
blame you.
I think the Lions defense have had shown improvements. I think the Lions interior defense, they have DJ Reader back. They have Aiden Hutchinson just looking like a freaking beast, in my opinion. Potential DPOY by the end of the year, potentially.
Yeah.
Um, I think this is just going to be a rebound game for the Lions, like you said. I think they win by 20. I think they're obviously in enemy territory, but I think the Lions fans, one pride, they're going to show out strong in Arizona.
Yeah, speaking of rebound game, who's going to get it first? Ravens or Cowboys? That's who we got up next. I think the Cowboys. I just have more faith in the Dallas Cowboys than the Baltimore Ravens at this moment. I think despite the turnovers for both teams, I just see the Cowboys putting up more points than the Ravens with how lackluster this Ravens defense has been.
As much as it pains me to say it as a Lions fan and knowing the history between Lions and Dallas, I think I have Dallas. I think, like you said, this Ravens defense, even the offense, has not shown it for me. I think the Cowboys are just a little bit of a step ahead against the Ravens. Yeah, it pains me to say it so much.
Yeah. Next game, we got the Niners and Rams. As Niners should take this one. I got the Niners. I mean, Rams just have everybody out. Might as well just be a whole new
Yeah,
roster, which is unfortunate. But
yeah.
yeah, I got the Niners. Not
I
really
have
much to
the
say there.
Niners. I have the Niners.
But Monday night, we got the Chiefs versus Falcons.
It's Sunday night.
It's it is Sunday night. Chiefs versus Falcons in Atlanta. I see the Chiefs winning this game though. Mahomes with a decent Atlanta secondary, but I can still see Mahomes picking this defense apart.
Yeah, and notice something that I said when we were talking about the Falcons last time. Kirk Cousins in prime time. This game is prime time. For that reason alone, I have Chiefs winning.
You got me there. Got me there. Yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting game. Maybe the Falcons play tough again, but we'll see. Jacksonville, Buffalo, Monday Night Football.
Buffalo.
Uh, you know, before the season, I would say Jacksonville, but now I got faith in the Buffalo
Buffalo.
Bills.
Buffalo.
Yeah, no doubt. Then we got another Monday night game, which I don't know why they're doing this, to pain us with the Washington Commanders and Cincinnati Bengals. Got the Bengals
Yeah.
here.
Let me truly think about this. You know what? I'm going to have to agree with you. I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
we
if you
got the
disagree,
Bengals.
we'd have to talk about it.
I think the Bengals take it. I think, yeah, I think it's not going to be close. I'm thinking,
It's
no, don't say it's going to be a close game.
no. I wasn't gonna say that. I was
Okay,
gonna
good.
say it's not even because like this Washington Commanders offense is bad. It's just I don't see the defense. The Commanders defense is weak. I mean, the secondary is weak. Jaden Daniels, I do like Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
I do,
I wasn't going to say like the offense is bad. I think it more falls
but
on the defense.
they can. I mean, even then, Jaden Daniels cannot get in the end zone, and that's showed last week against a weak Giants team. So
Where they
against the
only scored
Bengals,
field goals.
Yeah, right. Against the Bengals, I think the Bengals will win this one, as you agree with me there too. So that concludes week 2 and our predictions for week 3. I'll be excited to see how our predictions do going into week 4. See if the NFL's drunk again, or if maybe we can actually predict something
Hopefully
for
not.
once.
Hopefully not. If the
Yeah.
NFL does what it did in week 2, then we got an issue, guys.
Oh
Then,
yeah. That'll be
dude,
a lot of money
if
gone too.
the Commanders win against the Bengals Monday night, we have some problems.
We got a lot of problems if some of these teams win.
Yeah.
But I think that'll do it here for episode number 5 of the Gridiron.
Yeah. So leave your guys' predictions in the comments. Let us know if you agree or disagree with us. Obviously, there were some games that Mike and I disagree on. That's going to happen. I'm not agreeing
Yeah.
with him every single time.
Yeah, heck no.
But I mean, let us know if you guys want to keep seeing this sort of style of episode, or if you guys want us to kind of change it up. Each episode will be coming out Thursday prior to Thursday Night Football. So stay tuned every single Thursday for games and the Gridiron podcast. See you guys.
And one last thing
Oh,
too, I just want to announce one last thing too. We will be making a TikTok and on our YouTube. There will be shorts coming out, so stay tuned for that content as we'll be getting that up this week. And yeah, definitely comment if you guys want to see some other content, or if you want us to dive into something specific. We will definitely do that. But yeah, Nick, that's all I wanted to announce, and back over to you.
yeah, and let us know. Obviously, we have a couple watch parties kind of figured out of when we're going to do them. Let us know if you guys want any other watch parties to see our
Yeah.
live reactions on how games happen, how us as football fans think about different games. Even if you guys want us to look at different games other than Packers games and Lions games to kind of see like a neutral type feel of those games.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments. We'll see you guys next Thursday with episode 6, where we're going to be talking about week 3 into week 4. So see you guys in the next one. Peace out.